this project is entitled Toward the Common Good.
Yeah.
This is the progress toward the more broader good. We call this project the Common Good. Toward the Common Good.
You must be aware that your project can easily be appropriated by some kind of this new age, peace-loving, common good all together. No, common good is a matter of struggle. The only common good is common struggle for freedom.
僕は皆さんの方に見るとそういう新しい世界だと思います。
Imagine a good common good society. It's relatively easy by comparison with imagining who is able to put it in reality.
We're at the 7A at Metalkova. Hello? Hello? Perfect. All right. Sounds good. All right. See you then.
Hey, good morning.
Oh yes, good morning.
See you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, let's go up there and here.
Okay.
Here.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your time, bro. Which floor is it?
4. No, come on. Till when do you stay here?
I mean, next Tuesday.
You stay so long here.
Yeah.
But it's such a non-interesting thing. I do nothing here.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go in here. And see it's here.
This
Yeah.
place in.
This is all I have.
I mean, looks perfect. Looks very perfect.
If it's big, wait a minute.
Make the microphone upside down.
Yeah, sorry. I couldn't sit down. Yes.
This one. Perfect.
Yeah. I think they sent it to me, but I'm not
really?
sure.
And this is the Manifest of Lost Causes.
Thank
Two
you.
copies. Two copies.
Two copies.
Others.
You know what I mean? No, like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
you have 2 chairs there and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Inside.
Okay. Okay.
All right. So, how much like time do you think we can have before your son is coming? Probably.
How much do you need?
Sure. We have like a couple of questions here. I don't know. So this project is entitled Toward the Common Good.
Yeah.
So we are thinking to, we're planning to study more on the word, the common good,
Yeah.
and how it looks like, what it should be like in this time. Or
For me, what is problematic is not the word common, but the word good. Because the way I see it from my European perspective, traditional aesthetics was directed towards some supreme good. It can be God or humanity or whatever, universe, but you have this common good is always some supreme substantial value. And then we all should work for it. But for me, here my position is very crazy. For me, politics has priority over ethics. Not in the vulgar sense that we can do whatever we want, kill people, and then we can subordinate ethics to politics. But in a much more radical sense that what we define as our good is not something we just discover. We have to take responsibility for defining what is our good. You cannot simply presuppose some common good, but it's always a matter of decision. And everything, this is what I find it problematic with the notion of common good. For me, for example, today, what is common good today? Okay, we can say ecology, but then let us say probably most of the people would agree, even if we are politically different, we care about Earth and so on. But then if you look closely, you will see that there are so many ecologists, you have to make so many decisions, precisely as many radical ecologists have pointed out. For example, how much of ecology, which pretends to work for the good of nature and so on, involves hidden political choices and so on. For example, when you say, "Ooh, common good should be Mother Earth, our planet, which should thrive." But why should our planet thrive? Because we humans want it so that we survive. For me, ecology is the most egotistic, human-centered machine that there is. I mean, nature is crazy. There are all the time catastrophes in nature, things go wrong, planets explode, and so on and so on. What I want to show you is how, when we refer to some higher common good, how, if you look at it closely, it's always, at least the way I see it, defined by our secret priorities. Can you even imagine what we have now as ecological idea? You live in a small self-sufficient house with solar energy, whatever. If the majority of the people would have wanted to live like that, practically we would expand, forests would disappear, and so on and so on. So, you know, this is my big distrust. I don't think that whenever something is proposed as a higher good, so that we should transcend our egotism and work for it, you always discover that secretly you are already in it, defining this privilege. In other words, my basic position is that, again, not politics in the sense of what people usually associate with politics, cheap manipulation, corruption, power struggle, but politics in the sense of fundamental decisions about our life on Earth, collective decisions and so on, for which you cannot take you have to take full responsibility. Return to your question. In this sense, I am for the politicization of ethics, in the sense that we are not only responsible to do our duty, to work for the good, we are also responsible to decide what this good is. This is what I would like to emphasize. We are much more free and responsible than we think. I mean, usually it's fashionable to say, old Marxists like to say this, no, that we just appear to be free, you think, you go to store, you buy whatever you want, but in reality you are manipulated. It's true, but we are also more free than we think we are. You know, it's very, if you believe in some kind of a destiny, it makes life easier for you, you know. And the difficult thing is to break destiny. I think that, again, the first step is to accept this consequence of modernity, which is radical freedom, but not in a good sense, also in the terrifying sense that we have to decide, it's up to us. Again, so I'm now asking you, what do we mean by common good? I like the aspect of common, in the sense that we are facing mega problems where these old notions of sovereign state, or even, you see with ecology how, as I mentioned it, for example, for the financial crisis, they immediately found thousands of billions of dollars. For ecology, the Copenhagen fiasco, they promised 20 billion, and even those they didn't yet deliver. No, when you have ecological meeting, all they say is, yeah, we should go on talking. And they say we succeeded because what? Because we decided that in 2 years we meet again and talk. But you saw how with financial crisis they were able to act immediately with sums of money which are simply unbelievable. And this is, I think, the paradox today. But a strange society where at the consumerist and private level you will have all your sexual freedoms, whatever you want, but at the same time you will have a kind of a depoliticized order and so on. It's horrible. You know how we should measure this? Another meaning of common is very important. In the sense of common sense, common manners. For example, this is why I like to shock people telling them I'm against debate, I'm for authoritarian values. What do I mean by this? Then I give them an example. I wouldn't like to live in a state where you would have to argue all the time that it's not nice to rape women. Because, you know, what kind of society is this where you have to debate this? I would like to live in a society where the very idea to rape a woman is considered disgusting and crazy, absolutely in a dogmatic way. I don't like a society where you have to, oh, wait a minute, you cannot rape a woman. Whom are you trying to? It's obscene. And the same goes for racism, for fascism, and so on. The measure of ethical status of a society is not which things are debated, but which things are simply accepted as these unwritten rules which you don't even, for example, in Europe, you don't get in restaurants signs telling you, I don't know, don't spit on the floor, don't throw the food around, because it's automatically clear. You don't even have to. And this is, I think, the ethical standard of a society. Not what is explicitly prohibited or allowed, but what is to such an extent accepted that you don't even have to refer to it. And here, if you look at Europe, standards are falling terribly, in the sense of things which were, in this sense, impossible 20, 30 years ago, are today more and more becoming acceptable. For example, 20, 30 years ago, the very idea of having the extreme right in power, they were out. They were considered like anathema, like infected, you know. All these small neo-fascist parties, like Haider in Austria and so on, Le Pen in France. We don't talk with them. We are a democratic society, we tolerate them, but it's absolutely out of the question to have them in power, no? But now this fell down. You have it in Austria, elsewhere. They, all of a sudden, I claim, they will become respectable. We don't know what this means, what is happening. We are entering such a new world, I claim. So that, and we don't know. You know, some leftists like to say, we know what is happening, just we don't know how to mobilize people. I claim, no, we don't know. We even don't know, for example, in China. What is happening today in China? Is it simply an authoritarian capitalism? Is it a new form of communism? Is it something totally new? I mean, we have old Marxists and old liberals who agree in something, that it is simply the old communism triumphing even more. But even they don't have a good theory, because we have many of these new slogans, you know, post-industrial society, reflective society, postmodern society, informational society. But I think these are just journalistic names. We don't yet know what is happening. Which is why, again, I don't agree with those who claim we know it, we just don't know how to do it. No, we don't know what is happening. We need theory, philosophy more than ever. I really think that today it's the time for theory.
Conversations with our students, with young people, about their choices between, say, choosing an education that will lead to the fastest career at Samsung or Ericsson, versus choosing a path of activism, of political engagement that may have personal costs, but will help social movements. How do you handle such conversations with your students or with young people?
You know, this is a difficult question, because it's too easy to say, don't think about your career. My God, the majority of people have to survived. I think what we should offer them is a way to have some kind of a career. The problem for me is how you can be this, that, scientist, this, how can you do something good there? I don't want a society where we will be divided into a majority, which will be just stupid workers for career, and then a minority who will play this morally elevated role, or, oh, we are more of you. But what I want to tell you is that the true, I don't know how it is here in your countries, but here in Slovenia, in Germany, in France, in England now, it's horrible what is happening with education, with this so-called Bologna University reform. It's simply, they really want to do what I call, following Kant, private use of reason. That universities basically should produce experts which will solve problems. Problems defined by society, that is, say, state, business, and so on. But this is not thinking for me. Thinking is not solving problems. Thinking is, the first step in thinking is to ask, is this really a problem? Is this the right way to formulate a problem? How did we arrive there? You know what they want? Thinking is much more, is asking fundamental questions. And this is disappearing. They really want to make high school, universities into schools for experts. And it's happening, you know, I was horrified. They said it openly. For example, a couple of months ago, the British Minister of Universities, I don't know his name, said openly, from now on, for our government, in social sciences, humanities, and art studies, this has nothing to do with state. It should be an affair between a person as a private citizen and university as an agent of the market. So total commercialization of this. I think that this is pretty much a catastrophe, because precisely in confused times like today, we don't need only experts. We need people who will think more radically what is the real root of problems, and so on and so on. So the first thing to fight for, I think, is to make simply people who are experts, who work in a domain, to make them aware, not to just accept problems. You should think a little bit deeply, not just see, okay, there are those kids on the streets, how we treat them, and so on and so on. Just to see more, and I think it can be done. I think this is maybe the main task today, to prevent this narrow production of experts. This tendency, I find it horrible. I mean, we need more than ever today these people with, how to put it, general way of thinking, seeing the global perspective and so on, from even, if you want, philosophical perspective or what. So again, this would have been, I think, a wonderful topic, yes. Precisely, you know why? Because you must be aware that your project can easily be appropriated by some kind of this new age, peace-loving, you know, common good all together. No, common good is a matter of struggle for me. The only common good is common struggle for me, for freedom. But again, not exclusionary struggle, not kill them, and not violent in the sense of let's start shooting or whatever, no? But to break the hold of those in power. And so again, I cannot unfortunately give you the answer, but I think maybe something will come. But I think the topic is, again, the crucial one, because all are manipulating here. Again, as I mentioned yesterday, biogenetic manipulations, all that. It's, in a way, changing the very definition of being human. We are capable of doing things which will change our very perception of what does it mean. You know, if you or somebody, what does it mean to be human? If you or somebody else can control your physical and psychic properties, we at the same time become much more powerful. My God, you can change your, but also more subordinated, more vulnerable. It's a very dangerous situation, and we don't have clear ethical and other guidances here. When you talk about possible and impossible, how strangely this field is divided. If you talk about technology and spiritual, sexual, whatever experiences, media are telling us almost everything is possible. If you have money, of course. You can already be an astronaut. Now we have commercial traveling into space. In sexuality, you can do whatever you want. Obscene miracles. Like recently in New York, I couldn't believe it. Then they showed me photographs. I almost fainted. It's so disgusting. You know that in radical sexual circles in New York now, what is fashionable, okay, it's marginal, but nonetheless, it's done all the time. It's, for a man, they can operate your penis so that they split it into two. So that then you can do it to two women at the same time or whatever. But it's painful because the problem is how do you urinate then, no? And then it's, you have to have some, okay, whatever. But what I mean is that, you know, practically everything is possible. Or in technology, they claim all diseases will be cured. The ultimate dream is here, this Gnostic dream of technology, that we will become immortal by changing ourselves into a software program and just blah, blah, blah. Here, everything is possible. But on the other hand, when you want to change economy a little bit more healthcare, they say, no, no, impossible, the market doesn't allow it, and so on. How, you know, we can become immortal, but we cannot get a little bit more money for healthcare, no? And obviously, there is something terribly wrong with this disposition of what is possible, what is impossible. Maybe the task of thinking today is to formulate precisely in a new way to rearrange the limit of possible and impossible. At what level things which we think are possible are probably not possible, all these dreams of immortality or whatever, and at what level what economists and so on are telling us it's impossible is possible. Impossible happens. Not impossible in the sense of religious miracles, but impossible in the sense of something that we don't consider possible within our coordinates, like Egypt. Impossible happened, nobody expected it, and so on. So this, because you know, without clear limitations of possible, impossible, you cannot have a minimal stability which is probably needed for normal, regular life. I think changes are possible. You know, this is what cynics are telling us. Yes, we need a revolutionary upheaval every 30 years, so that then people see that you really cannot change everything in the long term, that you must return to the old game. Like, for example, no, again, one must blur this line between what is possible, what is impossible, and redefine it in a new way. So maybe this would have been, for me, the great task of thinking, to redefine, rethink the limits of possible, impossible. What are we today? Four. No. Four. Okay, you are, so that I don't lock anyone in and then he will starve to death. Yeah. Okay, everything clear. Because I have to work. I'm now finishing the big book. It will be so fat. Okay, so now
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Ah, there is one more there. So thank you. And, so thanks very much. Okay. I go here. Thanks very much. See you. Bye bye.